associated economic crisis has shown us is that local governments are at the forefront of service delivery. In fact, we can even call them service providers of last resort. When we were here, when we were grappling in lockdown, where were people going? They were going to their local authorities.
I'm not going to speak too much about the deliberations, but just give you a synthesis of what the Mkutano is all about. As Catherine said, it's a combination of private sector, the public sector, and academia in one forum, tackling specific issues that are instrumental in progressing our development agenda. Last year we spoke about innovation. The unique aspect of local government is that those two elements are culminated in your mandate, because ultimately local governments deliver up to 70% of services to the wananchi. So in that context, this is probably the most important Mkutano yet.
At the Greater Kampala Metropolitan Area level, Cabinet has approved an ambitious plan, and this is to enhance a local government strategy intended to accelerate local economic development with coordinated investments. One of the key problems we have is coordinated development across the metropolitan area.
While the local economic development initiative have been operationalized with the aim to boost economic opportunities for business, the benefits of revenue growth are yet to be mapped.
Since the policy is in place, now what we need to do, our thinking should be, how do we operationalize the lead policy in a manner that we really create viable units for business? That's my take.
That's the feeding that you give to the cattle. You must stimulate local production and productivity in order for you to come later and pick the money. But right now, we are milking a very hungry cow.
For us at NSSF, in the last 10 years, we've invested in the Kakira bond. It was a $30 billion bond, or you can say 75 billion at the time, and we invested almost 98% of that bond. We are proud to be associated with that investment because it has done a lot of impact in terms of agriculture, creating jobs. Section 68 of the UBRA Act, which is the act which basically regulates the retirement industry, does not permit pension funds or retirement schemes to lend directly or indirectly.
You're looking at pension money. This pension money requires a return. Unlike the banking system, the protection for investors is through the regulations, because an investor is giving money to this organization, and within that is the protection between the exchange and the capital markets.
If we're talking about financing local governments, there is going to need to be new key reforms, policy reforms, legal reforms, and also institutional reforms if we are going to empower these municipalities and cities to be able to go out there and raise capital.
Aspect which I needed to bring on board, that as we are talking as subnationals, we need to be able to look at nationally. The national rating has got its own challenges. If you are looking at credit attraction from the international scene, but how can we as a country that is struggling with this huge infrastructure deficit realign the credit worthiness to speak to our domestic market attraction?
Now, the locally raised revenue of Cowlitz local government is only 450 million. The money that I get from the donor funding is 780 million. Now the non-wage stands at 14 billion. What is the money left for development? Only 4 billion. Now what do you expect of local leaders whose mandate is cardinally to provide delivery of services?
I believe we should be able to look at this journey and what we need to do holistically. And we should be able to identify interdependencies and sequences between different actions.
We have focused on 3 things. The first one is generating our own local revenue. The current target is 100 billion raised by KCCA itself. This year we've not been able to meet it. We've fallen short by 20% basically because of COVID. But we are looking at what are the other places that we need to be getting revenue from and we are not getting revenue from. So you need to look, we say that we need to look at everything that can raise revenue for the city. We must look into that.
You've agreed on actionable areas. I've listened to the presentation very attentively. We'll study them as government. The ministry will draft a cabinet policy paper with the input of ULGA and UAU. I'll, I think, even invite the other development partners. Will not take it to cabinet before I get your input, so that it does not stop simply at this discussion and minutes for the next Mkutano. No, I want this aid memoir converted into a policy paper for discussion in cabinet and implementation by government.